Hello everyone. In the last chapter of the Standard First Aid Certificate course, we'll talk about transporting victim. You may recall that we have mentioned not to move the victim unnecessarily in almost every chapter, as moving the victim without confirming the severity of the injury may cause further harm to the victim. If the victim is seriously injured, has multiple injuries, or isn't in imminent danger, manage the victim at the spot immediately. There's no need to move the victim. But if the environment isn't safe, you should move the victim to a safer place before first aid treatment. In this chapter, we'll talk about the principles and the method of transport. Victim transport can be divided into emergency and non-emergency transport. Emergency transport refers to the case in which there's a potential danger in the environment, or the site isn't suitable for first aid. In this case, you should transfer the victim to a safe environment as soon as possible and perform treatment. Non-emergency transport refers to the case in which first aid can be performed at the scene, as it is confirmed safe to do so. After that, the victim is moved to a more comfortable place for further care, such as first aid station or ambulance. By principles, you need to explain to the victim on the purpose of transport and the technique to be used. You should also be alert to the victim's condition during transport. As for the method of transport, you should first consider the safety of the victim as well as your own. To transport the victim to a safe place quickly and safely, you need to know the correct postures and techniques. First, you need to ensure you can stand upright and steadily. Keep the head and back straight. Maintain a natural posture. Make sure your feet are comfortably apart to maintain well-balanced posture. Position yourself as close as possible to the victim's body, and use shoulders to support victim's weight. When you hold the victim, don't use your fingers, but your whole hand to strengthen the grasp. Before moving the victim, especially victim with head trauma, you should consider the possibility of spinal injury. Only trained ambulance personnel or health professionals should engage themselves in transporting these victims. If the victim has suspected spinal injury, manual lifts should not be used. Special equipment such as scoop stretcher and spinal board are required to assist victim transfer in this case. If there's only a folding stretcher on site, a wooden board should be put on top of it for stabilization. Now I'll explain manual lifts and carries. If the victim is conscious and can walk with assistance, you can use human crutch. It's better if you're of similar height as the victim. If necessary, the victim may hold a walking cane or stick with the other hand to assist walking. If the victim is conscious, small in body size and light in body weight, such as elderly and child victims, and you're strong enough to carry him or her, you can use pick-a-back method. It's appropriate for long-distance transport. If the victim is heavy and big, or his or her lower limbs are injured, you can use the drag method whether or not the victim is conscious. For example, shoulder dragging is to drag the victim's shoulders. Cloth dragging is to drag the victim's clothes. If there's a blanket on site, you may also use blanket dragging. However, drag method should only be used when the victim requires an immediate evacuation from dangerous site, and where no other method is feasible. Crawling method is usually applicable to narrow space or environment with heavy smoke, such as the scene of fire hazard. If the victim is an infant or light in body weight, you can use arm-holding method directly. If there are two first aiders, you'll have more methods to transfer victims, such as four-handed seat method, which is suitable for conscious victim, who can use one or both hands to grab the shoulders of first aiders. Three-handed seat allows one of the first aiders to spare one hand for carrying equipment. As for two-handed seat, it's suitable for weak but conscious victim. If the scene is a relatively narrow in-space, such as a corridor, or you need to transfer the victim onto a chair or stretcher, you can use fore and aft carry. Finally, if there are 3 rescuers at the scene, you can use carrying with 3 persons to transfer the victim. This method is applicable in moving through a narrow space, or moving the victim from the floor to the stretcher.